Hey folks out there in social media land, hope you're doing well. I'm on vacation, but I wanted to at least spit a couple videos out while I'm just sitting out here drinking beer on my back porch. Just moved into a new house, so pretty excited about that, but I've been laying low on YouTube and Instagram, but yeah, lots of changes. Hey, I wanted to answer a couple questions, and I seemingly just get tons of questions, and I don't know whether it's going to be kind of the squeakiest wheel gets the oil or whatnot, but people constantly want to hear about the military. It seems like a lot of folks out there are wrestling with the decision of, should I go into the military? If I should go into the military, what should I do in the military? Should I go to Army or Navy or Air Force or Coast Guard and they want me to weigh in and tell them what's best and weigh out the pros and cons. And so to just kind of clear the fog of, I have absolutely no idea what the Navy's like. I've never been in the Navy. I've never been in the Air Force. Though it seems like that's a pretty comfortable way to go. If you were smart, you probably just go in the Air Force or probably stay out of the military. Again, see, I started off saying I don't know, and here's me just reinforcing the fact I don't know. Even the Army, I realize, and this got me thinking, this guy's question of, I don't really even know what it's like to be in the Army. I went, went straight into Range Battalion. I was, there behind our high fences, and we didn't really play with the rest of the Army. I have no idea. I mean, I worked a lot with different special operations forces, but I really didn't do hardly anything with the rest of the military. I think first off, when thinking about going into a special operations unit, there's a certain personality profile that it's very helpful to fit into. One, you have to, I think, have a certain type of intelligence, and this is more of a street smart. You may not know the big words, you may not dork out on books and history and philosophy like I do. In fact, most don't. However, there is a certain degree of creative intelligence, and it's not just normal book smarts or something else like that your mind might jump to. It's, I guess, intelligence under fear, intelligence under stress and pressure. See, when I get scared or very angry, usually I get very, very calm. My adrenaline goes up, but my outside demeanor doesn't, and I can usually razor sharp focus. And I think that's part of something that's really, really important as well, because you could have all the necessary skills but not be able to manage fear very well and may not be able to work under stress. So I think that's one common denominator. You need to have an honest self-assessment and say, hey, do I have that characteristic? And if I do have that in some small degree, how do I cultivate that to make that a stronger attribute in myself? Another thing is kind of a double-edged sword. You don't like structure or rules for the sake of rules and structure. So for instance, I think the question why is both the downfall for a lot of soldiers' careers, especially in the special operations community, and the reason for a lot of the successes. Hey, why do we do it that way? Why not do it another way? Well, that way makes no sense. We could save time or energy. It'd be safer if we did it this way. And then all of a sudden, the answer back may be, well, that's just the way we've done it, or hey, that's what's in the rules, or hey, I know, but that's what we're going to do anyway. To someone in the special operations community, that's like death of the soul. I mean, you're just dying when something like that. You can't take it. You'd rather take a bullet than a needless order like that. So anyway, that's part of the common denominator. I think about Ranger Battalion historically. Rangers have been around for a very, very long time, but a lot of times in prior engagements, the Rangers would get in, they do work that nobody else could seemingly do a good job, but then during times of peace, they'd be so unruly and hard to manage, they'd be shut down. Anyway, I think Rangers have become a little bit more in tune with following enough rules to allow them to continue to be in service, but it's kind of like, it's hard to explain. Rangers are always going to suck at drill and ceremony. They're not going to have super shiny boots, because none of us can figure out, what does shiny boots have to do with anything? Is that going to improve my combat effectiveness? And somebody may shoot back because you're disciplined. It builds discipline. But yeah, why not build discipline in a different way? let's have something that's actually helpful. It's like, hey, let me stand outside in 120-degree heat at parade rest for 3 hours to show my discipline. Or I could read 10 books and work out 3 times. And, wouldn't that be a better display of discipline that is actually accomplishing something at the same reason? And so stuff like that would just drive me banana sandwich to have to, hey, it's really hot outside, blouse your boot? What? Blouse my pants with a... Why? Right, so other personality traits of those who would aspire to go into more specialized units, I think you have to have a couldn't quit type attitude. Now, not quitting, I plan to quit a lot, actually. I remember a few times just in my past military career where I'm like, all right, I'm quitting, I'm done. As soon as I get up there, I'm done. And then you get up there and you're just kind of like, no, for real, I meant to quit a bunch. I just never could actually pull the trigger on it. I could never actually man up to quit, so I just kind of rangered on. There needs to be some type of mechanism in you that doesn't know how to quit. You'd actually die before you did. So that needs to be there. Another attribute you need to possess if you plan on going into more specialized unit is you need to have thicker skin, tough skin. Now, and increasingly more so, at an alarming rate, people are becoming so ridiculously sensitive, it's like you can't sneeze without hurting someone's feelings in some way. And this is making these fragile little chocolate soldiers that have no place on a battlefield, they'll never be able to withhold some of the mental, emotional, and physical rigors of a battlefield or a combat zone, and instead we're just making these pathetic excuses for soldiers that are not going to be able to excel. All right, so fun story time. This question that I got of, hey, what Army or Navy or whatever else like that, I started thinking of, I don't even really know about the Army, and I was in it. And the reason why is I was kind of isolated my own little bubble of Ranger Battalion, and I only came out and played with the rest of the Army just a couple of times. One of them was Primary Leadership and Development course. This was PLDC, and you went through this. It was a big Army school so that you could earn your sergeant stripes. And I remember being up for honor graduate and for expulsion at the same time. And some of you be like, what? How's that work? I'm like, that's kind of Ranger mentality. You're going to just crush everything and everyone and get in a lot of trouble in the process. But guys, this was such a ridiculously dumb school. If you were there, if you'd watched me, you would have pitied me. You would have understood exactly. This is how I got up for expulsion. So I was maneuvering my fire team, and this was kind of like a mock combat scenarios out in training, and we were wearing this old school system. Some of you guys are going to call me a salty dog over this, but we're wearing this Miles gear. It's like laser type stuff, and you shoot blanks, and it projects a laser, and it hits the thing, and it beeps, and whatever else. So the instructors running the school had these guns we call God guns, and they could just kind of point at anyone, and it'd set off all your gear. So we're bounding across this objective. We're doing this raid, and I've got my fire team, and I'm yelling commands, and I'm shooting and engaging, and I'm kind of the farthest forward guy. And so one of the instructors at the school looked at me, and he had his God gun in his hand, and he raises up to shoot me, and I saw it, and I'm like, whatever. And so I just immediately turned, and I just tore him up. I lit him up, and I mean, it didn't hurt him or anything. He just kind of jumped back. He couldn't believe I shot him. So then he just came alive. He got all up in my face, and I'm standing up at parade rest while he is screaming at me while my fire team and squad keeps bounding past me. And there's a whole objective going on, and there's this whole combat scenario, and I was just right there nose to nose with this instructor who was just ready to try to tear me apart. He tried to do it with a gun. It didn't go very well for him. It must have looked hilarious on the side, but then he tried to get me kicked out, and it didn't end up happening. I graduated, I got my sergeant stripes and everything else like that. But that's a good example. Rangers just didn't mix well with the rest of our Army. It's like we would do very well in Ranger Battalion and horribly in the Army, and probably vice versa. If you do really well in the Army, you do terrible at Ranger Battalion. One thing is, there was a few other Rangers that went through PLDC with me, and we got in trouble, and the kind of cadre would pull us aside and be like, Rangers, you guys need to integrate with the rest of the Army guys. They're scared of you, or they're whatever else like that. Y'all need to be more welcoming. Y'all are leading, so you guys need to welcome them in more. And we were welcoming. They just didn't want to play with us, and we, it's kind of like whatever. So they all would go out, and their main way that they interacted, these are the regular Army guys, they would go on smoke breaks, and everybody seemingly smoked, and none of us did. So we came up with a plan of how we could integrate with the rest of the Army guys. So we got a pack of cigarettes, and we put it on the sidewalk there, and this was on the way to the smoking area. And we put a pack of cigarettes right there on the sidewalk, and we just lined up on either side of the sidewalk with our little bait, the cigarettes right there. So whenever somebody would come out, they'd see the cigarettes, and we thought we'd go for, they'd go for the cigarettes, and then we'd close in, and we'd have a big Warm Ranger integration hug. And it was so funny when guys came out, they would look at the two files of Rangers and the cigarettes, and then they'd just skirt and walk all the way around to the rest area. And every time somebody would come in, we'd give them a big Ranger integration, and it didn't work. We still didn't integrate. But kind of a long story short, this is just a fun way to say, I don't know what you should go into. I don't know about the other branches, but I do know there's a marked difference in their demeanor, their mindset, their personality. You need to have an honest assessment. It's kind of like when I went into basic training, everybody was going Ranger Battalion. Everyone was chanting the Ranger Creed after lights out. It was really obnoxious. But everyone was wanting to go. And I think out of 60, 70 guys, like 5 made it. And after about 9 months at Ranger Battalion, I was the only one left. Everybody has aspirations of it. You need to be honest with you, because if you don't make it, then you get shipped out to the needs of the Army on a really sucky duty assignment, and you don't want that. It's not super hard getting to one of these places. You can make it through buds or RIP or whatever. The hardest thing, though, isn't getting into the units. It's staying there, where every single day is an audition for your job. I tell privates when they came to me, and say, listen, you need to be excellent at everything. Not a few things. You need to be absolutely excellent at everything. And that was kind of the standard. I was a little bit harder on my dudes of... it is higher standards. It's for folks that hold themselves to that higher standard. They are self-disciplined in that demeanor. I'll give you, as way of an example, I never, ever didn't max a PT test in my entire military time in. And when I was a team leader and squad leader, I had a simple rule. Everyone will max their PT test. And if you can't max your PT test, that's kind of the top standard for the Army, is the minimum to be in my team or squad, then you really don't have a place with me. And so, I'm going to demand absolute excellence. And I loved my guys and still do. But there's a higher degree. You're going to have to push. So for those out there considering, if you don't have that internal drive, if you don't have that mindset, if you don't have that self-disciplined demeanor, if you don't have that never quit kind of attitude, where even if you tried to quit, you just couldn't pull it off. If you're constantly fishing for ways that you could find a better way, you're a creative thinker, you do well under stress, and you can manage fear, then something in special operations may be right for you. If not, have an honest assessment, because you don't want to go to the just general needs of the Army or Navy, doing something that you didn't want to do. Thanks for hanging out. Take it easy, guys. Warrior Poets, train hard.